If you still can't log in, contact your health provider registry administrator.
That normally means his email address is doubled up somewhere.
I was getting that yesterday.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. I welcome you to Microsoft Teams running meetings like a pro, and hopefully by the end of the session we can have you utilising Teams to its full capacity within your meetings. Thanks, Hannah. I'll get you to jump to the next slide. Great. And would you be able to go one more slide and then we'll jump back to this one. I first would like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on their call today. My name's Sophie. I'm one of the Digital Transformation Consultants here at the Digital Transformation Hub as part of the Info Exchange Group with Connecting Up. The Hub focuses on digital technology as an enabler to support service transformation, view new ways of working and assist non-for-profits on the broader digital transformation journey. Before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. We are on Microsoft Teams today to make it as interactive as possible. So please turn your camera on and stay on mute during the presentation. If you have any technical issues, please type it in the chat box and I'll assist you. We really encourage you to ask as many questions as you can throughout the session. No question is too silly. Please type them in the chat box and Anne or I will answer them by the end of the webinar. If you are on a Wi-Fi connection or have multiple programs open, this can sometimes affect the quality of your audio and video of the webinar. If possible, please close all other programs to help you have the best experience. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and the slides and a short survey will be sent to you as soon as we can after the webinar. Today, I'm excited to welcome you and I will introduce you to Anne, our presenter today, who will lead the session.
Thank you so much for joining Sophie and I today. By the end of the webinar, you'll be able to interact with other meeting participants using the chat features. We'll learn how to navigate different participant views, determine your preferred participant view, and understand the difference between sharing your desktop versus sharing an app. We'll also find out how you can share audio with your desktop, change your background, mute your sound, and identify the source of background noise to request your fellow meeting attendee to mute. So let's get started. During the course of your day-to-day work, you will be invited to attend different types of meetings. For example, ad hoc, project-based, schedule one, or external webinars or events. For ad hoc meetings, it will be like quick feedback or real-time help. For project-based or group focus, it will seem more like weekly team syncs, project status meeting, or event coordination. You will frequently have those standalone or scheduled one, such as quarterly organizational-wide meetings, board meetings, or community meetings. And once in a while, you will, or even more frequent than schedule one, you might have external webinars or external events. We aren't going to delve deeply into that today, but the features is there to use. This session has been designed to be interactive, and we encourage you to explore the Microsoft Teams functionality as we progress. Please feel free to turn on your video so that we can see you, and it will also help me know when you need some help or have any questions. The chat windows allows you to share information without disrupting the flow of the meeting. If there's a red dot on the icon, it means that there is a new comment waiting for you to read. So if you look at your Teams window right now, you may see a bubble, look like a chat bubble with a red dot in it. If the red dot isn't showing or you cannot see the chat icon, click the More Actions 3-dot and select Show Chat Bubbles. So the chat icon is shown in your Teams chat window or Teams meeting window. Now we will add a question into the chat section of your screen. Take a moment to read the question and then respond by typing something in the chat box or raising your hand to acknowledge you have read it. Yes, can see a lot of reactions. Yeah, I can see you all have soup or still, very. Hopefully you all have a nice lunch by joining the Lunch and Learn with us. Amazing. So yeah, that is the chat functions and how you can react during the meeting. Other than raising your hand, you can show heart emoticon or you can clap your hand to show appreciation. Let's have a look at a few audio and video features available during your meeting. The first feature I want to introduce to you is the mute feature. Have you ever had that pesky background noise from one of your fellow participants? You know, the dog barking, a background conversation, the typing sound, all those, noise when you work, especially when you work from home. As a fellow meeting attendee, you can't automatically mute everyone. That can only be done by the meeting host. You can, however, identify the source of the noise and ask the participant to mute themselves. To identify the source of the noise, look at the image view of the participants on your Microsoft Teams window. Teams will automatically highlight a source of sound. This is the participant that you asked politely to mute. So if you look at the image on the screen right now, where we circle red, you will see the icon that I just pointed out. So when you all just join the meeting, I myself, the organizer, have just muted you all. But in a moment when we start the Q&A sections and then you can turn on your mic, you will see how you can identify who is the one that is talking right now. So if you haven't muted yourself, please feel free to try to mute yourself. The next features I want to introduce to you is the background features, which is a very popular one and the one that we are using right now. With more of us working remotely, backgrounds have becoming more important to make meetings more business-like, but it also allows you to protect your home from being seen. To change background, simply click the 3 dots on your Teams window. It's at the top right corner of your screen. Select Apply Background Effects and then change your background. You can select one of the stock backgrounds, choose to blur your real background, or even load your own image to use as a background, like what Sophie and I are using right now. So it's more professional and maybe more uniform for organizations. Be aware that if you are experiencing low bandwidth on your internet connection, your background may not be as effective. But yeah, whenever you want, you can still use blur or the stock backgrounds for this feature if you're not having an organizational one. There's also features that are very interesting in Teams that you might not experience in other communication platform. It is the participant views. By clicking the show participant icons as circle red on the screen, you can see who is currently in the meeting. This option allows you to add someone else to your meeting or share the invite to the meeting. To switch the participant view, click More Actions, the 3 dots at the top of the screen, top right corner. Make sure you have your video on. So it works well. There are different modes that you can choose. Together mode, you need at least 5 people in your meeting to access together mode. It looks like a classroom or a meeting room, as shown on the screen right now. It brings everyone together in one screen, like a gallery. This way you can see everyone together, not just the people speaking on the screen. I personally find this mod really cool because I feel like I share the same room with my team, even though we're working remotely. There's also large gallery mode. The large gallery mode can be used when there is more than 10 people in the meeting. It will only display up to 49 participants in the view. Teams chooses people to display based on whether the camera is enabled and whether they have spoken recently. If you do not end up in a meeting with more than 49 participants, people will switch in and out of the grid based on who's contributing the most or who's speaking and then adding more content the most. So both of these options aren't as useful when someone's sharing content as they take over the screen that you're looking at. So because in the meeting, I'm currently sharing my slide right now. So you may not see other participants. At the moment, I'm sharing my slides. To return to normal view, so you can see the content, select focus on content options. So these are the 3 main views that you can choose and use in Teams. The most important features that I want to introduce today is sharing content. People frequently want to share contents, such as share the slides, or they want to share documents they want to edit together, or even just sharing a video with other team members. You can use these features in Teams. There are various options to select from when sharing content. I'm not sure if you have used Teams before and we can share with each other through the chat box. Please feel free to type in the chat box if you have used any of the sharing content options before. But there are 3 main options: screen, window, and whiteboard. So if you click the share content icon, as I circle in the image of the slide right now, you can see the icon look like a square with an arrow pointing up. With sharing screen option, it allows you to share your entire desktop, including notifications and other desktop activities. Sorry, this option is useful if you need to move between different applications on your computer or different windows, such as PowerPoint or Word or even an image. However, be aware that even though it's very convenient, people may see your Outlook notifications or some sensitive content or personal content that you may not want to share. So if using these options, I highly recommend that you close your Outlook window or close any sensitive content window that you would not want to share to other parties of the meeting, so that it is not, it is not revealed. Other than the screen sharing options, you have the window options to share as well. As its name, you will be able to share just one window. So for example, what I'm sharing right now is just my PowerPoint window. I'm not sharing my browser or my Outlook or my Word window that I'm opening right now. So it's a bit safer than the screen options when you don't want to share any sensitive content. However, make sure that you have, if you want to switch between different windows and use this window sharing options, practice this beforehand, before the meeting, so that you can switch smoothly between windows. The last option I want to introduce is the whiteboard sharing options. The whiteboard allows participants to collaborate on the whiteboard in real time, and it's then attached to the notes of the meeting. It's very handy because you can refer back to the notes and then you can share it to the participants at a later date. And the final options is very convenient when you share videos or snapshots of sounds. It's include your computer sound. So in order to share your computer sounds, to stream audio from your computer to participants, turn on the toggle box or choose to turn on the include computer sound options as circled on the screen right now. So all sounds from your computer, including notifications, will be audible in the meeting if you choose to include your computer sound as well. So that's all the features and content that I would like to share in today's meeting. Now we will move on to the Q&A sessions. Please feel free to type into the chat box or raise your hand so we know that you have some question or want to ask.
Great, thanks, Anne. So we've got a couple of questions in the chat already. And feel free to add it in chat, or you can welcome to raise your hand and when we're ready, come off mute and ask Anne the question directly. So the first question was from Anita asking if you can see the views of large gallery or I've had a complete mind blank, the other view in the browser as well as the app. So the answer is yes, you can with the same 3 dots to access that. And did you want to add anything more to that response?
Yeah, a quick comment is in other lunch and learn session, we have already talked about it before, that you may or they may not have the same view as other people, even though you are using the same Teams applications. The reason for that is you may use the different team versions and you may use Teams in browser instead of the team applications. So the team applications is the one that have the most features, and then all the latest update that Microsoft put on Teams will be in the latest version of Teams applications. So make sure you frequently update your Teams and then get the latest one on your computer. If you're using a public desktop or a share, or you share the computer with other people, that is when you may have to use Teams in browser. At that point, you may not have all the features that you see in Teams application downloaded to your computer. Also, when you minimize your Teams window, make it smaller or make it full screen, it will also change how the icon are displayed on the top right corner as well. So you can try it right now, make your team screen smaller or bigger to see the changes. So it just how the icons are displayed differently, but the features are all there.
Great.
Thank you.
Fantastic, Anne. And this continues on nicely. Thank you, Dan. I cannot share right now. It only states that only meeting organisers and presenters can share in this session. Does that apply for all meetings that only organisers can share?
So yeah, in other lunch and learn, and I hope in the future lunch and learn, I can share more about you with you different types of Teams meeting. So there are 2 main types of team meetings. One is the normal Teams meeting day by day you use, and what we're using right now is the webinar features. So in webinars, you will have different roles like organizer, presenter, and attendee. So all of you are just attendees, and Sophie and I are organizer and presenter. Attendees in those webinars have less permissions. But whenever you start a new team meetings, as we suggested, in Teams, just that when you start a new normal meeting, by default, all of the participants will be able to share screen and mute themselves or have all the features that are introduced in this webinar. Please feel free to try it out on your own or with your teams with those normal meeting. But for this one, this is a special one because this is the webinar, not the normal meeting that you have in Teams.
Great. Thanks, Anne. So Kath asked to continue on from that, can you change the organizer during the meeting? So with Anne's explanation, I hope that it makes sense that in a standard Microsoft Teams meeting, the organizer and all the participants have the same permissions, so they can all share as well. We're today using the webinar Microsoft Teams feature, so that gives us a little bit more permissions, such as being able to limit sharing. Great. Was there any other questions anyone had? Got a couple of questions here that came in before the session started. How do I start a new meeting, Anne?
Yeah, so let me take you back to previous slide. I don't have the recording here, the picture here, but I will share a window. So if you look at your own Teams application, there are two main ways I normally use to start a team meetings, either through Teams or through Outlook. So if it's through Teams, you open your Teams applications or Teams in browser. You can either start it through your calendar view, create a new meeting in there, or you can directly call and start a meeting with other people through chats or Teams. So I will send you I will navigate you to some resources that you can directly identify this icon. The second way that I normally use to start my meetings is through Outlook as well. So if you open your Outlook applications and create an appointment in your calendar in Outlook, you can also have the options to start a Teams meeting in there. So these are the two main ways that I use to create my Teams meeting.
Thanks, Anne. Thank you, Patty, for your question. I think there's two parts to this question. Anne, is there a difference when recording in a webinar versus a normal meeting? And how is it best to save and share?
The content is, if it's about the content, there is no difference. You can start recording a transcript for both those normal meetings and webinars one. The only difference is in webinar, only the organizer and presenter can start the recording. In normal meeting, everyone can start the recording. It's by default. Sometimes whoever configure your Office 365 or team environment may change those permissions differently depending on each of the organization. But yeah, whichever I'm mentioning, it's normally the default one that Teams give us. How is best to save and share? So normally with this webinar, you may not be able to access the recording directly or instantly after the meeting. And it can only be accessed when organizer or presenter share it with you. However, through the normal meeting that you can start in your daily use, everyone can access the recording the moment the meeting ends, and the recording is ready probably in a few minutes when it's tried to save to a cloud space. In order to share it, you can just go to the, once the meeting is ready, you go back to your normal Teams view. The the video is there, you can click on the video and then choose the share option in there to share it through links with other people. If you want to store it somewhere else in your file storage space, you can also download the video and then save it to those space. So it's pretty convenient for us to share and save those videos. Do you want to add anything, Sophie?
I think that's great. Patty's asked another question. So thank you. Does that mean that several people can record the meeting?
Once you press the more and then choose to, let me just go to the recording. So if you look at the screen, once one of the participants click start recording in there, you will receive a small notification on top of your team screen that this meeting is being recorded. So everyone having the same record, not each of those that start the recording will have their own recording. Just everyone share the same recording.
Yeah, so essentially there's one recording and it will all be in everyone's chat at the end of the session. Great. And we do have time for a couple more questions if anyone does have any. I've got, I think this is a quite timely question given what we've been chatting about today. I don't use Teams all the time, maybe once or twice a week. So I currently use the browser view. Should I download the app?
Do you want to take this question, Sophie?
Yep. So I think I would recommend downloading the app, even if you need to contact your IT provider and get permissions, etc. It's going to really improve your experience when in Teams meetings and make it easier to use ongoing. So you might only use it once or twice a week, and other times you Zoom on a regular basis. But as you have the app, everything will stay in the same place, so you'll become more familiar with it over time. Is there anything with that, Anne? We're happy with that.
No, I think it's totally, yeah, it's great. It covers everything in one.
Great. Danielle's asked a question. My Outlook gives the option of doing a Skype meeting, but not a Teams meeting.
So probably you need to contact your IT provider to see if whether Teams is enabled in your Office 365 tenant, or if just you haven't added the Teams add-on in your Outlook view. So if you go to your Outlook and then go to calendar, you can right click and then choose customize the ribbon and see if you can add the Teams meeting add-on options. If not, your tenant Teams may not be enabled. So my shortest answer is contact your IT provider, but let us know through the connecting up events email, reply to our latest email to let us know if you're having any difficulty if you cannot contact your IT provider.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anne. Well, if you do have any questions following up from this session, as Anne says, please feel free to respond to the recording email, and we're always happy to answer any questions. I hope this session has enabled you to use Teams a little bit more confidently, and we do always continue to have lunch and learn sessions throughout the week to improve your experience using each of these. And yes, we will be sharing the slides of this webinar in a follow-up email. Thank you everyone for today's session.
Thank you. See you in the next one.